Okay, I guess we can start. Hello, everyone. This is the EPTE webinar again here from our minimalistic studio in Berlin, and yeah, we will today we'll talk about the Romanian presidential elections 2.0. Which is taking place this Sunday. So Romanians will return to the polls for the second round and of the elections. The first round was held already on the 4th of May. So my name is Adam Busulan, and I'm a senior program officer at EPDE, and let's start. So we have the second round with two candidates. They can be, I guess, seen as symbols of a deeply divided, polarized Romanian society. Leading after the first round is George Simion, a far-right firebrand, former football hooligan, a former member of the parliament and founder of the Alliance for the Unity of Romanians, AUR, which currently holds around 20%, if I'm not mistaken, 20% of the seats in the parliament. He secured 41% of the vote in the first round, while his opponent is the Nicușor Dan, who is a liberal mayor of Bucharest with roots in the urban protest movements. Dan only narrowly beat the government's coalition's candidate, Călin Antonescu, which was quite a surprise for some of the experts, taking just over 20%. George Simion has been branded in parts of the Western media as pro-Russian, a label which I think can be is quite questionable, but we can discuss it later on. While he openly supports Trump-style nationalism and opposes military aid to Ukraine, he also backs NATO and backs also campaigns quite aggressively for unification with Moldova. After the first round, the markets reacted nervously. The Romanian leu dropped in value. I guess now you have to pay around 5 lei for euro. You can correct me later. Nicușor Dan, in contrast, is a pro-European technocrat. He is a mathematician, founder of the Save Romania Union party, USR. He is a progressive candidate, and his party was born out of anti-corruption protests. He's not longer a member of this party. He runs as independent, also against the leader of the party. So this party actually supported its leader, but not Dan. It's also a kind of intrigue behind it, but we can talk maybe with Maria about this intrigue a bit later. And but he remains closely associated with USR values. His performance in the recent TV debate helped him gain ground again, and according to the recent polls, which is another difficult subject in Romania, both candidates, Simion and Dan, are neck and neck on around 48%. Interestingly, while Dan won in most districts abroad, it was Simion who secured more votes from the diaspora, for example, in countries like Belgium or Germany. Dan, however, won a clear victory in Moldova. where Simion's aggressive rhetoric is, let's say, not really popular. This election comes in the wake of an annulled first round of November 24th election, 2024, thrown out over alleged foreign interference and covert social media manipulation, mainly benefiting ultra-right candidate Călin Georgescu, who won the first round, but then has been eliminated from the political life. And that scandal triggered the reset of the entire process and placed social media campaigning under intense scrutiny. At least we hope it's the case. So in this high-stakes second round, several key questions dominate the public debate. For example, how the fact that Simion performed even better than expected in the first round reshapes the campaign narratives and the overall conduct of the campaign. Is Simion truly anti-European and pro-Russian, or just a nationalist outsider? Why did the governing coalition's candidate, Călin Antonescu, fail to make the runoff? What role are TikTok and other platforms playing in this new phase of the race? And has the controversy over hidden campaign funding forced any real changes to electoral oversight? What lessons have been learned from these disastrous events? So with just few days to go, Romania's elections has become more than a national choice. It's been called a test, at least by Dan. I've heard it somewhere that he called it a test of a democratic resilience of Romania. So let's discuss all these questions, all these intrigues and events with our excellent experts. We have today with us Septimius Parvu, whom many of you know already. He is a coordinator of the electoral program at Expert Forum, which is also a member of the EPDE. He has a huge experience in observing elections in Romania since 2009. He participated as an expert and coordinated many campaigns in Romania and on an international level. He coordinated at least 15 election observation campaigns in Romania and many more with Council of Europe and OEC ODIHR. We have also today with us Vlas Stoicescu, who is a founding editor of derailing.ro. Maybe Vlad can explain us and tell us more about all these projects where he is. I mean, derailing.ro is one of the first independent media outlets in Romania, and he's also editor and producer and host of different other programs, platforms, and newsrooms and investigative projects. And he is also an active YouTuber, and he's also a president of the jury at Super Scrieri, which is an annual prize that celebrates best pieces of Romanian journalism. Last but not least, Maria Krause. Maria has a huge experience in election observation. So together with Septimius, they are the best election experts in Romania. And she is volunteering in monitoring of Romanian elections since many, many years, but also she was election expert and observer with many missions led by OEC ODIHR, the European Network of Election Monitoring Organizations, ANEMO, and with Carter Center. So she was observing around the world, and I guess we can start with Maria. Maria, yeah, with all this said about this election marathon in Romania, how you assess what happened actually with the annulled elections from November, which were first confirmed, then annulled, then the winner of this election was basically cancelled from the political scene. He was even arrested at some point, and now we have a candidate who doesn't accept these elections, but is running in them and winning the first round. So what is happening in Romania?
Thank you, Adam. The main thing that we get from the annulled election from last year into this electoral process is less trust, less public trust in the process, and less public trust in the election administration and in state institutions in general. As you said, it's very important that it was first validated and then after a couple of days cancelled. This, of course, doesn't inspire trust. It doesn't look like the authorities know what they're doing. Then it was also cancelled when the voting had already started, because it was cancelled on Friday, and you know, we have early voting, so people were already voting in polling stations abroad when suddenly there came a decision to cancel the election. And all this can be understood by the people and can be justified if it is explained. But that's a big problem that it wasn't. So we are here standing at more than 5 months after the failed election, and we still don't have a public report stating what went wrong, who did what, and on this, the measures should be based that are taken to ensure a better electoral process this time around. So I think that this is going to be, when this election is over, because in a couple of days it's going to be over and we're going to have a president, but after this is going to take a really long time to re-establish faith in the electoral process in Romania. And because my first topic that I need to talk about is the election administration, I'm going to start by saying that they feel it as well, and they know. And they are talking about disinformation and about some rumors that are circulating these days. And if you look at their socials, for example, at their social media accounts, where they post, you know, about what they've been doing in the organization of elections, and the comments are negative. Before, there used to be citizens who just ask a question about, you know, where to vote or something like that, or even somebody who says, good luck with your work. In general, it was pretty neutral. Now it's negative. And also at the end of last year, we had a couple of protests about the annulment of the election, and not necessarily that these were pro-Călin Georgescu protests. They were like, seriously, people didn't understand what happened, and they felt that it should be explained, and that, you know, something was taken away from them. And some of these protests were violent, even against the election authorities in Romania, which has never happened in Romania before. And, you know, a campaign to discredit the election administration. You see, for example, in Moldova, it happens quite a lot. But in Romania, we didn't have this really, and I'm not sure how resilient these institutions are, because they're not used to such attacks. Now, if you ask, there are all kinds of rumors, and there were before the first round. There are even now circulating that, for example, the permanent election authority is going to cancel this election as well, or that they're going to postpone the election, the second round, and is going to take place in the fall. All this is not true. Before the first round, that there was going to be a big electricity blackout, and there couldn't be an election day. Obviously, it wasn't true, and obviously it was inspired by what happened in Spain. That there are 4 million dead people on the voter lists. So if you ask the election administration, what is the purpose of this? I think they will agree that part of it is what people sometimes do just in case they lose so that they can claim fraud afterwards. But part of it is also an intention to generally undermine public trust in the democratic processes and in the state institutions. So should I share my screen to show a couple of slides, if that's all right?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Let's try if it works.
I'm actually trying how to do it because I'm not complete. This is the one that I wanted. So as you can see, this is the structure of our. Can everybody see it? Did I manage to share? Okay.
Yes, it works.
This is the structure of our election administration. Probably most of the people watching this already know that we have an election administration with two heads. We have a permanent institution, the Permanent Election Authority, and we have a structure of 3 levels of ad hoc election commissions, where the Central Election Bureau is the higher of these 3 levels of election administration. And what can I say about them is that they have met their deadlines for this election, and they have done the logistical arrangements, and they have taken the necessary measures for the good conduct of the election, but they didn't start with a good capital of public trust, as I said. And the fact that the sessions of the Central Election Bureau are not public, in spite of repeated Vot Corect recommendations and ODIHR recommendations, is probably one of our most important and long-standing recommendations. The fact that they are not public did not help, to increase public faith in their activity. And also there is what appears to be an intentional flow of loads of complaints. I think that Septimius can confirm this, but I think that in one day there have been even 400 complaints from one party alone about online campaigning, because these online campaigning regulations that we have now are new for this election, and I don't think that we're going to see the same regulations for the next election, because they have not proved very effective. The Central Election Bureau has been attempting to remove one by one objectionable posts from social media, but as everybody knows who uses social media, when you remove one of those, they mushroom, and it is taken by 1,000 other accounts. It is posted again, and removing them one by one is probably not going to solve anything. But for the Central Electoral Bureau, it is a huge workload. The number of decisions that the CEB has taken for this election is so much higher to any other election that it doesn't even compare. So I think that, looking at future elections, I think that the way of dealing with online campaigning from the election administration is going to have to change if it's going to be effective at all. And the other thing that I want to say about the election administration is that according to the election law, there is a representation of candidates in the election commissions, excluding independent candidates, which we have repeatedly criticized. But, the election law says that election commissions, and I'm going to show you a slide specifically about polling boards, the political party members are going to be from the parties that nominated candidates. But at the beginning of this year, we had the emergency ordinance for the organization of this election that said, without any explanation or any justification, that for this election is going to be the parliamentary parties. So this is what it looked like for the first round, because we have 7 parliamentary parties, and it just so happens that the seats in a polling board in the country for political party representatives are also 7. Only that this cannot really be balanced because 3 parliamentary parties supported one candidate, Mr. Călin Antonescu, the one who was close to going to the second round but did not. The Save Romania Union supported Ms. Elena Lasconi and then later Nicușor Dan, because as Adam said, they changed their mind about it when it was too late to officially withdraw their candidate. And the 3 other parties in the parliament, SOS, AUR and POT, supported Mr. Simion. Now, what happened just very briefly with the Save Romania Union? In Romania, you cannot withdraw until the last moment. You can withdraw until the 19th of April. That's it. There is a deadline. After that, you're going to be on the ballot. And they didn't withdraw their candidate within that deadline. They just decided at some point during the campaign that they would withdraw political support for Ms. Lasconi because they figured out that she wasn't going to win this election, although in the canceled election, she did make it into the second round. And they decided that they were going to support Mr. Dan instead. However, the Central Election Bureau has ruled that they cannot do that. You cannot have one candidate on the ballot and be campaigning for another candidate, and you cannot spend money on another candidate's campaign than the candidate that you have announced to the public that's your party's candidate. So when we look at this, we see that this is, if you look at the little logos of the political parties as the members of a polling board, you see that 3 of them represent Mr. Călin Antonescu, 1 of them represents Ms. Lasconi, but also keeps an eye on what is happening with the votes for Mr. Dan, and 3 of them represent Mr. Simion. But we had 11 candidates, right? So let's say 8 of those, maybe 7, were not represented at all. It's looking more balanced for the, sorry, I don't know what this.
Maria, allow me to interrupt you. I mean, what does it tell us? I mean, do you want to tell us that this lack of balance in the election administration on the central and the lower levels, perhaps, which reflects the same system, right? And the same proportions. Does it have any impact on the integrity of the election day or the conduct of the election? Or
I don't think that you can say that it has worked. And first of all, I'm going to answer this much better when I get to the part about election day, because that's going to be very relevant. But I don't think that we can say that the commissions have somehow compromised the integrity of the vote because they've done something to put the other candidates who were not represented as at a disadvantage. But what I'm saying is that this has not been explained, and there is, on the face of it, there is no reason for it, and it is a vulnerability for the system. So the fact that it didn't happen to have an impact, and obviously I think that we can agree that the 3 parties that were also the representatives of the governing coalition, they cannot have really cheated in the polling boards because their candidate lost. So that's a good indication. But it's very difficult to say that the election was rigged and the independent from outside the system won. But it's a huge vulnerability to the system, and it doesn't matter what happened. What matters in this particular case is that it wasn't fair and there was no reason for it. So here's what it looks like for the second round. It is more balanced representation of the candidates on the polling boards, because now 3 of the parties have rallied behind Mr. Dan, and the 3 that were supporting Mr. Simion are supporting Mr. Simion, and the PSD has not announced that they are supporting a candidate. And this is all that I had to say about election administration, and I'm going to move on to the campaign.
Good. And you have, Maria, and you have another 2.5 minutes.
Yes, thank you very much. The campaign, you can see on the right, what the outdoor campaign looks like in Bucharest. This is it. No banners, no billboards, nothing like that, because these are our campaign regulations. They are extremely restrictive, only one poster per candidate per billboard, and the posters are very small. This has had the effect that most of the campaign was conducted online. Also, a large part of the campaign was actually conducted before the campaign during signature collection, which is a big vulnerability for the transparency of campaign finance, as Septimius will probably tell you. On TikTok, we have continued to observe coordinated inauthentic behavior, what was the huge problem in the previous election at the end of last year. And another thing that we've had that we haven't had in a lot of elections were presidential debates, which have added vitality to the campaign, and we were very happy to have them, but it was a short-lived joy because in this last week, one of the candidates has chosen to not participate anymore. And there have been actually debates where one of the participants was Mr. Nicușor Dan, and instead of Mr. George Simion, there was an empty chair. And how that went with the press, I think that Vlad Stoicescu is going to tell us later, but it seems to me that Mr. Simion hasn't made any friends among the representatives of the media during this week. And just very briefly about election day, you can see that the evaluation, we covered 1,000 polling stations during voting. You can see that the evaluation was overwhelmingly positive. Like more than 98% of the reports were positive about voting, although of course problems were noted, like some confusion about people who want to vote in another town than where they reside. Even the vote count was very positive, and there are vulnerabilities to the process as well. And there was noted tension in some polling stations, and sometimes observers noted the procedural errors or omissions, but their general evaluation was still very good because in the comments that they attached to their observing reports, they have often mentioned that whatever irregularities they observed, they could tell that they were not done with bad intentions, and that people were just confused and trying to save time sometimes, but not with an intention to compromise the result.
Mario?
So also an important observation. I think that we can say that whatever is wrong with this election, it did not happen in the polling stations on election day.
And so we can make a bridge now to the second round. But before I do it, we have some comments already in the Q&A here section, and one which I think is relevant here regarding the posters and the campaign, and we can continue with Septimius to talk also about this, is that the strictness on the posters and the campaign and the outdoor campaign is actually good, because some candidates don't have means to make a lot of posters and others have. So better only one, and all of them must follow the same measurements. Maria, let me go over to Septimius, and maybe also Septimius, if you could maybe respond to this, and maybe also the next question, which is already here, and there is an elephant in the room, right? And TikTok, and I guess we have also to speak about TikTok, about the funding of the election campaign, and how what kind of impact it has on the current campaign. Septimius.
Okay, thank you very much. So I will also try to answer some of the questions which were already which are already in the chat, and as I have some graphics, I think it will be better to. So we already mentioned who's in the second round. Just a second, I have just let me make it full. Okay. So it's interesting, because the candidates went in the second round are the first and the last one on the ballot, chronologically. So do you see my my PowerPoint, just to make sure that can you confirm, please, that it's okay? Yeah, okay, good. So basically, we have the first and the last candidate. Maybe just 2 words about what you said, and I will go straight to the campaign finance issue and the online environment, just to show you a little bit about the results. And I think Adam was mentioning, you were mentioning earlier a little bit why Simion got such a high result. I think so here you see the final results, which are from the results website, which, by the way, presented quite quickly the results. So for the second round, if you're interested, it's the website of the Permanent Electoral Authority, which is called prezență.ro.aap.ro, and you can watch real time basically how protocols are filled in. But I think it's interesting to look here. These are the results in the country. And it's interesting if you look that he got that Simion won most of the country. Basically, what you see in blue, it's mostly these are the Hungarian counties with the biggest Hungarian communities. But it's also interesting, and I think maybe Vlad will touch a little bit about it. If you look in the west, in Dobrogea, you will see that Simion got a lot. And I think this is also connected to the influence of the church and some of his origins of the entire movement. But I won't get now into details. But I think it's an interesting map which shows you basically who won where. Nicușor Dan mostly won in big cities, in communities which, as you see, there are quite a low number of counties as such, but his success was mostly, of course, in Bucharest, where he got 40% as a mayor, but also in some of the most, I don't know, Iași, in Timișoara, in Cluj, the big cities mostly.
Septimius, are you referring to your presentation or the presentation on the website of the which you mentioned before?
No, it's what I'm showing you now. So do you see the map?
We don't see the map. We just see the first page of your presentation.
Okay. That's why I was asking. Sorry. Okay. Let's try again. Okay.
So that's the first slide, basically.
Okay. So is it better like this? I don't know exactly.
No, we see the same thing. I thought that was it. I thought that was what we were.
Let me try again. I don't know exactly what's happening. Now, is it better?
Oh, yeah. So
okay.
Now we see a
Sorry,
map.
so I was speaking about things you didn't see. Sorry. But if you look abroad, the difference is quite, I mean, first of all, George Simion won, I think, quite a number of countries, especially the big countries. I don't know, Germany, Italy, Spain. Nicușor Dan won mostly Moldova, US, Canada. But also there are most of the votes are basically in these big countries, as you can see here, with a dark yellow. But why did he got 40%? I think it's mostly that he borrowed some of the votes from Călin Georgescu. Probably this, because if you look, basically George Simion got less than 20% last year. Călin Georgescu got 23%. So probably it's somewhere around there. Maybe from other parties, also a little bit of pot from the same bucket of parties. And this is analysis on the second round. Basically, where now is, like you mentioned, is around probably initially it was more for Simion, but now it seems that most of these are more polls which are put together. So basically, it's an average. So what you see, it's somewhere 50-50. Or today there was one in which Nicușor Dan had a little bit more, but without diaspora. Well, we already talked about the debates. The first one on the left is from the first round where Simion brought some flowers and left. But we basically, for the second round, we had only one debate so far. There are some which are announced for TVR, for the national broadcaster. But the other ones, Simion didn't come to. This one on the right, it was yesterday. This is a stand-up comedian, actually, Micuțu, who organized the debate yesterday. But Simion basically preferred to go abroad, in Poland, in Rome, to meet with other European leaders. I think he's trying to build his image as a I don't know, a European leader with good connections, instead of coming to the debates. It's interesting to see if this will cost him in the electorates.
I mean, he even supported the conservative candidate supported by the Peace Party in Poland,
Yes,
which runs a parallel campaign right now. So it was also an interesting event to see in the Polish television. And
Prime Minister Tusk wrote, I think that evening, that to see he named him pro-Russian candidate, Simion, and that this shows a little bit where we are now. So I think it's yeah, but it's interesting. He decided, to go. He doesn't come to any debates, but he decided to go to in tours, and I think he's in Brussels now, if I'm not mistaken. But when it comes very shortly about money and online campaigning, so this is it's not. These are not quite the 100% final numbers. There's a small difference. The expenditure is a little bit higher, but you can see this was the most expensive campaign for presidential elections we ever had. So we spend more even than in previous elections. For these elections, we had, as you see, Călin Antonescu was supported by 3 parties, Maria already said. He had the most expenses, mostly come basically, as you will see, from the Social Democrat Party. Basically, Antonescu was supported by the Social Democrat Party, although he was member of the Liberals until March. But also we see Victor Ponta and Nicușor Dan, who were independent candidates, that basically brought quite high, both the income and expenditure was quite high. Basically, this is in Romanian currency, but you have to divide by 5. But this is more illustrative to see exactly how the difference, basically, Călin Antonescu spending almost more than the others together. Well, now to maybe as a I don't know, as a conclusion, maybe it was not the best investment, taking into consideration the results. The same with Mr. Ciucă last year. So we have 2 types of income. We have from candidates, and we also have from political party. These are the funds from candidates. Victor Ponta and Nicușor Dan brought the most of the funding. These are what you see here is 99%. It's loans. We don't know where they come from, so we know it's loans, but we don't know who gives the money to the candidates. If candidates are elected in official positions, not only as a president, they will have to submit an income declaration at one point. But according to the law on political finance, we don't see who's the source of the income. Which is opposed to the political party finance. When you give money to a political party, there will be an annual report with the source of income. Here, for elections, which is, I would say, more sensitive, we don't know exactly who gave the money to the candidates, which I think it's an issue, and we criticized it, asking for a reform here. These are the transfers from the parties. So apart from what candidates brought, this is what the parties declared. And you can see again, Mr. Antonescu is more than all the others together. And basically, if we look separated, most of it, as I was saying, is from the Social Democrat Party and not from the Liberals, which have kind of quite big financial difficulties after bad spending last year. When it comes to expenditure, around 50% was for online. which does not only mean platforms, but also other types of, I don't know, websites, for example, banners on websites. And also we have around 25% on media. This was basically mostly the Social Democrats and Mr. Ponta spending on TV advertising, basically. Also here with our partners from Who Targets Me, by the way, it's a very good website if you want to see for all countries in the EU and you want to see income and expenditure. Here you can see what's in green. It's Nicușor Dan, and I am referring to the bigger, to the higher curves, and what's with light blue, it's Crin Antonescu. So basically you see that they spent most on Meta at the end of the campaign. I think the highest was around 60,000 euros in a day on Meta. And this is Google, is much lower than, it was not incredibly popular. But here what's interesting, we had some third party campaigning, it's illegal in Romania. So you cannot spend for a candidate if you are a certain page. These are mostly fake pages, so they were created illegally, basically. The disclaimers are not real. We complained to the Permanent Electoral Authority, which is the oversight body, trying to, because they brought almost 200,000 euros. So they spent quite a lot of money, apart from the official campaigns, for negative campaign. But what's very interesting, after the first round, they stopped spending. So the question is, my theory is one of the candidates which was in the first round basically paid for this. The problem is that at this point, we don't know exactly who spent. I mean, it's under investigation, but it's ridiculous that by the end of the second round, almost, we don't know exactly who spent the money.
Septimius, can we ask this question, Vlad, and let him continue on the
Yes,
on the media?
Sure.
Because I think this is one of the most interesting topics, and since Vlad is also investigating into these issues, Vlad, if you could perhaps reflect on what Septimius showed us.
Yes, thank you, Adam. I am an investigative journalist, but I haven't investigated this, so I'm afraid I can't provide you with a factual, accurate response to what Septimius showed, you know. The thing is, I don't want to give partial answers. You know, we're living right now in Romania, which is full of partial answers, and I just want to look at things that I can really grasp and that I know and that I can factually place, you know, in some part of the spectrum or the other. So. Let's talk about media, because
no problem, Vlad. I just wanted to stop Septimius and go over swiftly.
Yeah, I know. I got that, but I think maybe we can go back after I finish my presentation to Septimiu to wrap it up, because he has a better knowledge of what he showed than I have, you know. So no slides for me. Hello again. Thank you for inviting me. I hope everyone can hear me. Just to pick things from where you, Adam, left them when you presented us, the participants in the group. You told them that I should fill in my presentation with some other info about what I do. So yes, I'm an investigative journalist. I'm the founding editor of De La Zero, which is probably the oldest independent media outlet in Romania. So it was established in 2011, and it's an interesting story, and I want to touch on it because it kind of shows the degradation of the Romanian media. You know, we are all, and I'm talking from the perspective of independent media publishers, freelance journalists. We are all children of censorship in a way, you know. my case, for example, I started working for the biggest newspaper in Romania, Evenimentul Zilei, and this was in 2008. I was a feature reporter for Evenimentul Zilei, and it was owned by a Swiss company. It's called Ringie. It's a big media publisher in Europe. It has all sorts of media operations all over Europe. It had this newspaper in Romania back then. They sold, so the Swiss company sold the Romanian newspaper in 2010. They sold it to a Romanian businessman, a very murky businessman, if you ask me. The first thing they did, the new owner, they basically took out the investigative department. So the next day they took ownership of the newspaper, they took out the investigative department. No investigating stuff in the newspaper from the moment they bought the newspaper, you know, and I left. So I had no other choice but to leave back then, and I established my own media organization. It's important. Of course, it's important for me. It's a personal episode, and it's important from my professional evolution. But I think it's important for our story too, you know, because we have preconditions when talking about what's happening with the media and how Simion are treating the media. We must look at preconditions from my perspective, of course. So this is my explanation. It's subjective in some ways, but I think we need to talk about preconditions. One of the major preconditions is that the media, the Romanian media, started degrading some 12, 15 years ago. You know, so things were good until let's say the economic crisis in 2008 or 2009. Of course, we had manipulation, we had propaganda, we had media actors that were friendly with certain political actors. But this happens all over the world, right? So this was not specific to Romania back then. Things were kind of good. We had foreign publishers on the Romanian market, which we kind of don't have right now. So they all left, basically. But the situation starting from 2009, 2010, the situation started degrading very badly. Very, very, very badly. And then the pandemic came. And when the pandemic came, the media was already doing kind of worse, kind of bad, sorry, in Romania. So no money, no means to do your job. When, of course, talking about the independent actors, and when talking about the mainstream actors, they were all kind of both by mainstream political parties. This is a topic that is well known in Romania. It is not that well known outside Romania. The parliamentary political parties receive a subsidy, a monthly subsidy from the Romanian state, and they can use any percent of this subsidy for propaganda purposes, which
Vlad,
means that they can buy friendly media. Yes,
Vlad, just how does it? I mean, because if the situation is like this, that the big parties have such an influence on the media,
yes,
how it translates to the bad performance of the Antonescu, for example. I mean, if we see all the figures, also what Septimius showed us, and the story about capture of the media by the parties. How
it's simple from my perspective. It created distrust. So at first, for a couple of years, it didn't matter, let's say, for the general public. But at some point, it became something of importance for the general public, because the general public at some point said, "You are lying to us. We are not seeing any real journalism when we're opening a TV station, let's say." And you can see that when you look at audiences. So audiences are going down for TV news stations, if we look at the past 10 years, we're seeing that audiences are going down. Part of the population goes on TikTok or on Facebook or on alternative social media platforms, and they take information from there. This is how Georgescu won the first round in Romania. He wasn't present on any mainstream TV station with 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the election, but he was on TikTok. He was talking directly with his voters, right? So the mechanism is like this. The parties have both the mainstream media by using public money, and this created distrust. And distrust brought us to the point we are here in 2025. Just to answer your question, so we have distrust. We have, from my perspective, a growing sentiment of impunity from the politicians, because they learned over the years that they can buy the media. And they also learned something, that they can take us to justice, to courts, So we are referring, I'm opening another topic of discussion, the SLAPP phenomenon. You all know of SLAPPs, strategic lawsuits against public participation. If we look at the numbers, more and more SLAPPs in Romania in the past 10 years, more and more SLAPPs. So you have distrust from the population, you have this growing sentiment of impunity, which we can see in the growing number of SLAPPs, which we can see in the way politicians relate with the media, and we also have a weak institutional framework. And this all created the ideal space for systematic attacks against the media. I think this all, it's an intersection, it's a junction. You have all this phenomenon, and they are going on for several years, and then at some point they reach a common area, and that common area is used right now by far-right parties like our or SOS or POT to attack basically the media,
I'm quite surprised that you're not referring to the Russian influence in the social media, immediately talking about all those issues, and we hear it every day in the media all over Europe, but we haven't seen any evidence on this. How do you assess?
But we haven't seen any evidence on this. So if talking about the annulled elections, from November, so we've seen the secret reports from the secret services, we've seen the allegations, we've seen TikTok's report, right? So at the end of March, TikTok released that yearly report for 2024, and they also address Romania's case, and they deliver some numbers over there, but they don't deliver the proof that we actually had Russian interference. So we're still waiting to see how the Russians interfered with the Romanian elections in November 2024. But that's not the main thing for me. As an investigative journalist, I am trained to follow the money. So I don't need Russians in Romania's November campaign to understand that something fishy was happened there. Because what I can see is that the guy that won the elections, I'm talking about Călin Georgescu, with over 20% of the vote, he declared zero spending in the campaign. He declared zero spending. He didn't receive any money. He didn't spend any money, But the guy was number 9 on TikTok's global, how do you call it? Hashtag.
I see. Thank you, Vlad. I see Septimius wants to react, and then I can only encourage our audience to.
Can I have 30 seconds more? Just 30 seconds. I wanted to start with this. I think I have 2 leads for my presentation. I should have started with them. The first lead is I can't wait to see you gone. The second lead is we have to find ways to free the media. Both sentences were said by far-right politicians in the last week. The first one was said to reporters in the parliament by Ana Maria Gavrilă, leader of POT. The second one was told by Marius Lulea, vice president of AUR, and the right hand of George Simion. Thanks.
Okay, Septimius and then Maria.
Maybe just to build on what Vlad said, and to both answer your question and build on what Vlad said. So on one thing, I think there is I think the extremist language against the media, but the society as such, as a whole, I think it becomes stronger and more worrying. I mean, also Simion himself published a letter, I would say, on his blog in which he was naming some journalistic outlets which, let's say, wrote critical articles against AUR and himself, G4 Media, Hot News, or I think there were more actually. They were naming NGOs who were monitoring their activity, and basically I think it's a very worrying naming and shaming, because it's not just a reply to what it's kind of a threat, you know. Basically the letter ended with, what do I do with those who didn't support me after the elections, individually, not as a group? And now I'm quoting from the memory. It's not exactly, you know, so I take it as a threat. You cannot take this otherwise. So I think the violence language has grown worrisome. This also goes hand in hand with the increase of the visibility of fascist behavior, which is promoting interwar criminals and interwar Iron Guard, which was the Romanian, let's say, extremist entity. And actually, there are very interesting investigations, and I think the media is doing a great job. The investigative media, which have shown yesterday the origins of Simion's growth, which is connected to, basically, he was promoted by the daughter of one of the most famous. I don't know, we call them Legionar, which is basically the interwar fascist group. So, and they only the fact that you go, and this might be very important because Simion is now taking over from Georgescu, which, by the way, was declared his candidature was unconstitutional, and I'm wondering how a candidate which goes to vote hand in hand with such a character does not have any kind of issues. But Georgescu was accused of these crimes. Actually, he's now accused of these crimes, because in Romania you're not allowed to promote xenophobic and this kind of legionarism, you know. So although they say they are not extremists, but I think taking in consideration all these things, you cannot say it's otherwise. And maybe just one thing very shortly about the Russian influence. I think here we have a mixture of everything you want. We have, as the former President Băsescu, he was asked before the previous elections if he's the Romanians or the Russians. And he said, well, I think it's more Romanian than, you know. But I think it's a mixture of Romanian interference and illegal funding. I think it overlaps with what was already happening in Romania and in the region, with targeted campaigns, with paid advertising for all this kind of disinformation, with alternative medicine. And now there is one investigation about fake TikTok accounts, which the prosecutors asked the help of the Turkish authorities, because these accounts, 20,000, seem to have been somehow created in Turkey, but with Russian emails, and so there is a link. I mean, I don't think it's absent. We don't know exactly how much is it Romanian and how much is it foreign influence. And during the election day, for these elections, for the first round, we did had quite a number of attacks, mostly DDoS attacks against the main websites of the main institutions. I don't know, the Constitutional Court, the Ministry of Interior, the parties, which were assumed by a group of Russian hackers. So I think it's a mix of everything, but we do a great job into serving, you know, this kind of through how can I say, through with Romanian forces to serve foreign influence, you know, basically.
Mm-hmm. Before I give you Maria K the vote, what I would just look at the Q&A section here from and the reply from Maria T. That I mean, Maria is commenting on the Russian involvement, and she's saying that that there is already a proof, which, yeah, we somehow still don't have the feeling that that it's yeah, but okay, I mean the feeling of we still need more information about this is still there, basically, right? But and we want to learn more about how this influence, how it worked out, and how it supported all these narratives of Georgescu, who apparently didn't spend any penny on his campaign. And the second comment, maybe I just read it. The entire perspective is not that clear and simple. There are mainstream private TV stations that use the popular narrative of anti-system or deep state propaganda, used also by Fox News in US. There are mainstream private TV stations that are more credible and factual too. It's a mix. This black-white perspective is not healthy. The same goes for online newspapers. Maria K. Now. We don't hear you. I think you're muted.
Sorry
Yes.
about that. I can't answer this one about the media because it's really not my field. I'm just going to say that I wholeheartedly agree with everything that Vlad Stoichescu has said. And I also don't think that that it's a black and white perspective at all, what he said. And I'm going to build on what he said, and I think there's something that we need to add. He said that when the parties paid to the media institutions the price of silence, basically, to not be criticized and to not be challenged, you know, people started distrusting the main media outlets, and they turned to social media because they have to get their news somewhere and they have to get their political analysis somewhere. Well, I'm going to build on that, and I'm going to say that the same thing happened with the political parties. Because you asked, I think twice, the question, how did Călin Antonescu lose? Because he had because he had this powerful coalition behind him, so it's a little bit surprising.
And a lot of money.
And the most money, he had more money definitely than the next two combined. Here is a possible answer, but for that we need to look a little bit at the background. The dissatisfaction with generally the performance of the political class. But there's something else. In Romania, the biggest two parties were the Social Democrats and the Liberals. And in this, you've seen, for example, in my election administration presentation, that we have 7 parliamentary parties. In the previous parliament, we didn't have that many because 2 of the extremist parties are new in the parliament. And anyway, the biggest parties were the Social Democrats and the Liberals. And people were used to this. You vote for one of them, and if they don't perform, and if you are dissatisfied, then you vote for the other one, and that's the opposition. And they will know that if I don't do the job and if I don't do what I promised, then the other one will come. They thought that they found the perfect solution to this. They made an alliance together, And now there was no opposition. And they went and said to the people, look, this is our alliance. We have made an alliance with the opposition. So we have effectively taken your opposition away from you. Because now we are the party and the power and the opposition. And now we have all the power. Because nobody is going to challenge us. Because we have swallowed up the opposition. And whatever opposition is left, meaning the USR, is so small that it's just not going to be able to challenge us. But you see, the people had to turn somewhere else. So they, when they're basically told by the politicians, look, there's nothing you can do. You have to vote for us because there's nobody else. They will turn and they will vote, and they will vote for the extremists, and they will vote for the anti-system and for the people coming from outside political parties and for independents. But they have to have an opposition because that's just how it works. So I think that, you know, for Romanians, it's pretty clear that this happened, but I think it provides a bit of background.
Thank you, Maria. I think we are slowly running out of time, and I would like to ask you maybe just to conclude and yeah, to summarize what we've been discussing today, and maybe make a short yeah, assessment of what can we expect on Sunday and beyond Sunday. What this election, what the result of far right, apparently a far right candidate, tells us about the mood in the Romanian society, and yeah, and what can we expect from this election? What kind of impact for the future Romania, but also for in terms of, you know, seeing Romania as a part of EU and the European politics, what kind of impact it can have on this election can have on the future relations, international relations of Romania. So maybe we start with maybe let's start with Vlad, from your perspective as a media expert. What do you expect from the second round, from Sunday, and for the what do you expect for what kind of impact it will have on the media landscape in Romania? In which direction then this system developed?
I would say the following. So first of all, no matter the winner, I would say that we have to prepare ourselves for years of cultural wars in Romania. We are a very fragmented society right now. The political options show it, but we're not talking only about political options. We're talking about how should I put it? A palpable sense of tension in Romanian society right now. You know, so we have reached a point where common citizens refuse to answer to surveys. You know, we had a lot of surveys that couldn't show true real figures because people were not responding to the questions or were giving false answers, you know, and this is a trend right now in Romania, and the trend will not stop on Sunday, no matter the winner, no matter if Nicușor Dan wins the election, no matter if George Simion wins the elections. Otherwise, so this is like the general idea. We're very fragmented as a society right now, and we will have to fight this. And it will not be over in a couple of weeks or a couple of months. It will take years, from my perspective, because we've seen what happened in the United States. So this is the grand model, right, for cultural wars, the US. Well, this is happening in Romania right now. Actually, Simion, from my perspective, he is playing the Trump playbook. He is taking all these things that he has seen in the Trump playbook, and he is trying to do the same things in Romania. You know, so this is the general idea. A very fragmented society, and we need to find ways to at least accept each other. You know, if not really understand each other. Besides this, the media be it mainstream, be it independent media, has no chance of healing if the system remains the same. So if political parties continue to receive millions of euros each month, we're talking about parliamentary parties, but of course our is also a parliamentary party. If they receive millions of euros each month, and they can do whatever they want with that money, and they will use up to 60 or 70 or 80% of that money to buy friendly media, nothing will change. You know, no matter what Simion says, no matter what anybody says, because this like financing mechanism, which is not at all transparent, we only see the total amounts, but we don't understand what they are actually buying. Are they buying news? Are they buying questions? What are they buying? We don't see that. We've never seen that, like an actual contract, you know? So this problem will continue no matter what if we don't change the rule. And the rule right now is that the state gives political parties a lot of money and they use up to 70% of that amount to buy the media.
Septimius wants certainly a comment immediately on money.
Well, actually, I will start with another thing. If we talk about the future, I mean, I will also get the money, but I think this is one of the elections in many years, which is the most, when you have to, you know, it's like north and south. You have the strongest opposition between two candidates, which are, I think, completely different. So it's basically one way or the other, which I think it's on one side, I think it shows a little bit how the society looks like at this point. I think none of them will be able to, I don't know, heal the society. Probably it's a very nice word, but I don't, and even now they don't speak to each other's, no, to the other electorates. So it's mostly, you know, their own bubbles, which I think it's an issue. And I think it started with 2024. It started with COVID, but I think it grows more and more. So I think this hate in society, the extremist speech, the violence, I think it will be an issue and will remain. I think with George Simion, and there was a question in the chat about the economic view, and also combined with your question, I think it cannot be okay. I mean, he basically wants to adopt Viktor Orban. He said that Viktor Orban is his model. So basically he wants to, I don't know exactly what to adopt, but not probably the good things. So I think Romania will become an autocracy probably, because our will name, I don't know, constitutional judges, prosecutors. And we can see that their party breaks a lot of rules, going to test basically all kinds of rules. So I think in any case, it's worrying. And how can you be a president who's forbidden in Moldova to enter into Moldova and Ukraine, which are the two neighboring countries? And it's also interesting because he basically grew as a supporter of union with Moldova, and now he said that he would not support Moldova in case of a Russian attack. The same with Ukraine. So I think it's a very a speech which isolates, and I don't see how Romania can survive economically, and probably we won't get out of the UN NATO. I don't think it's that easy. But anyway, I think our image, our evolution in these years will be very, very affected. And maybe the last point, as you also referring about money, and I think society moved quite a lot on social media, opinions, discussions. Yeah, I still that some of these televisions, and again there was a comment. I still think that they still play a role on one side or another. I think. But and I still, I mean, what Vlad was saying, I think the state will still pay money to these televisions to create whatever, to make the agenda. But I think what we see is that the mainstream parties have lost control, and that's why they lost. I mean, they lost last year, but they lost again this year. You have the three main parties in Romania which lost the elections. I think it's ridiculous, you know, to have probably 10 years ago, they would have gotten 70% together, you know. So I think it shows a little bit that politicians, the old school traditional parties, politicians, the way of communicating through, I think it lost much of the influence over society. And I think we have to adapt to a society which discusses and makes policies and votes through social media, which again, it's a very uncontrollable environment. And we have seen again in these elections.
And I'm sure Maria wants also reflect on this, and maybe also on the question. We have the last question here in the chat regarding hate speech and like promoting George Simion and Romania TV.
I don't really want to make any predictions. I think that, first of all, this is an election where I can honestly say nobody has any idea what's going to happen. It's been like this since the end of last year. You know, we are on terra incognita. But I also don't think it is my place, because I'm an election observer, so I'm not going to make any predictions. But I think that it is very important that we're going to have to deal with the effect of this long term. Like Vlad and Septimius have said, it's going to take us a very long time to recover after this. And thinking about this last question about the hate speech. Well, in the 2025 elections, a lot of the candidates have taken the rhetoric of Călin Georgescu, hoping that they're going to get some of his votes. You know, it wasn't just George Simion who did that. It was also some of the candidates who didn't make it to the second round. And this brings more extremism and more hate speech into the public space that after that is going to take us. It's like a minefield, you know, when the war is over, it's going to take you a long time to demine the land. So after this election is over, it's going to take us a long time to deal with the effects, you know, and I'm optimistic that we're going to manage to, you know, it's not going to get worse and worse, and it's not going to spiral, but maybe it is, and maybe I'm wrong, because I've been wrong before. And what else did I want to say? Yeah, the last point, just very briefly, about George Simion and the support that he gets from where. You know, there was probably everybody knows that there was this discussion after the election at the end of last year that he got some votes from PSD, from the Social Democrats, that the Social Democrats have told some of their people to vote for Simion because they would have liked him as a counter candidate in the second round against Ciolacu, because they figured that it would be easier for Ciolacu to beat him. Well, this has been such a good political strategy that none of them has made it into that second round. And moreover, it shows, you know, what good political strategies they are, in the sense that Ciolacu, if he had done nothing, he would have won. So with this strategy, he managed to push both himself and Simion out of the first round. So I'm thinking people are not that stupid. They can see through some of these games, you know, sometimes. And the other thing is that if you want to think about this Moldovan thing where George Simion is persona non grata in Moldova, and he says that it's because he's such a patriot, and the Moldovans say that it's because of his connections with the Russian Federation. Look who's supporting him in Moldova, if you want the answer. You know, because he says that the reason why he's persona non grata is that this was a decision taken by Dodon. Yeah, but Dodon is supporting him now. You know?
So very complicated situations. I mean, at some point, the positive aspect of it is that, yeah, we know the date of the elections, but we don't know who will win the election. So it's still somehow in in a kind of, yeah, taking place in a kind of normality and a democratic normality. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We are looking forward to to observe this this second round alongside the Polish presidential elections first round on Sunday, and we'll be back here in with next seminars, webinars. We already plan a couple of events on the upcoming elections in Moldova, and also on Poland, of course. And yeah, so stay tuned. Follow us on social media. And yeah, see you soon. Thank you very much.